Are you ready to do some drawing? It is time to start. We're here on YouTube, and we are nonetheless drawing outside. We're inside, but we're going to be drawing outside. And why is that? Because...
Are you ready?
Oh no, what's happening?
To do some drawing.
Yes, anyway, so it turns out that I am actually on live on YouTube. Anyway, as I was saying, we are going to be drawing inside while drawing the outside. Or you might be outside too. If you're watching this on your phone somewhere outside, great. But I am here in my apartment on the 8th floor of this building here in Greenwich Village, New York City. And it's a beautiful day. We have had so much rain and awfulness and cold. Yesterday I had a sweater on, and then I said, you know what, I need to put a cardigan on top. I felt like this decrepit, miserable old creature wrapped in blankets in the middle of the day. And it's May. It's May. So that was madness. But today it's beautiful, and let's have a look out the window. That's the view. That is the view. Rooftops, buildings, apartment buildings, all kinds of things. We'll go back and look at it again in a second. But what I want you to do is, well, you can draw along with me. You can draw this view. But actually, no, maybe you can't, because I'm going to be looking at the view and I'm going to be drawing it. And you probably won't see it. You'll just see my drawing. So if you want to just watch me draw, great. Let me shut this window too. No, I won't. I'll do that in a minute. But the fact is that it would be, I think, better for you if you draw whatever it is you can see out of the window. You know, and it could just be the house next door. It could just be some tree branches. It could be a spectacular view of the beach and gorgeous waves crashing. It could be buildings on fire and people running by with guns and planes strafing. Hopefully not. It could be, I don't know, it could be unicorns prancing around on through rainbows. It could be all kinds of things. Whatever it is, that's what I want you to look at. So, but first, let me see who is here. And it seems like there's a few people who have joined. That's great. Let me just say hi to Photo Zombie. Photo Zombie regularly shows up, terrifyingly. Michelle, Magdalena, and Sylvie, Kimberly, Gail, Patty, Joyce, boy, and Morgan, of course. And Morgan better be here. Morgan just ran one of these extravagant races that she runs. Morgan Green, our Dean of Students at Sketchbook School. And she runs literally like 100 miles. She'll run for 24 hours, sometimes longer. She's crazy that way, but that's what she does. But she just did that, I think, last weekend. So she's back. Yara is here from Sweden. Yes. Who else? We have Lena, Helen. That's great. She wants us to get moving before it gets dark. I understand. And I apologize, by the way, for it being late today. I know that I normally try to do this at noon Eastern Standard Time. Today, I had to delay it for 2 hours. I had to go to the doctor, and doctors have this uncanny ability to just ignore the idea of time, or certainly of anybody's time but their own. And so, of course, my plans to get in early and get out early in time to come back here and draw were dashed. So thanks so much for being patient and making a change. I'm fine, but I had to go through this thing. So anyway, I've done it. Who else is here? Russ Petkoff in Virginia, Sylvie, Ruth in Madison, Magdalena, Deb, Sabrina, Jacinta, Elaine, so many people who I recognize, some people who I don't. Esther, 1J Diamond. Excellent. Suzanne, Linda, Fat Hobbit. I'm so glad that you could, I'm sure you can draw something in the Shire that will be interesting and stimulating. MRDR Fly. Interesting. Nellie, Ruth, Juliana, Alice Broadway in Lancashire. So anyway, lots of other people. We'll come back and talk to some more of you soon. But in the meantime, I want to just talk about my view. So I've lived in this place for a long time, over 20 years, and I've watched the view change. I mean, where I live in Greenwich Village has a lot of history. I mean, there are buildings here that are hundreds of years old, and there are buildings. There's one that they're building a block away from here that's gigantic, that hasn't even been finished yet. So the city is always changing, always presenting a new challenge for drawing. And I have 2 balconies, and I love to sit on the balcony, particularly in the summer, and just sit and draw the view. But the view is huge, as you can see. I mean, it just spreads out. Let's have another look at it again. It's gigantic, and there are times that it can be overwhelming. Like you sit down and say, oh, let me just draw the view. It's nuts. It's crazy. I mean, you can spend an extravagant amount of time. I want to show you a couple things, a couple drawings that I've done of the view. Let me switch here to my other camera so you can see that. Here we go. So yes, so here, so that view is I lost the camera. That view is the one that's right out there. So we'll come back and have a look at that again once I get this camera back with me. Dang it. Anyway, yeah. So this view is wait, here it is. So, all right, the camera's back. Excellent. Here's the camera. It's upside down, and there it is. So, yeah. So that is a drawing that I spent, obviously a fair amount of time drawing it, and it does look like a Tommy Kane drawing, but it's not actually. It's perhaps done in a Tommy Kane style, but in the sense that I spent a ridiculous amount of time on the details of it, which my friend Tom does a lot. And I did it in this. I guess I was emulating him in that he likes to use pen, and then he likes to use watercolor, and then he likes to use colored pencil, and he can spend a ridiculous amount of time doing that. So, that's not what we're going to do today because we don't have the time. We're busy people. Here's another drawing that I did on my laptop, on my iPad. Sorry. This is a different aspect of the view, and you can see that it is simpler in a way. But again, this is one of the problems with doing this drawing of the view is it's less somehow interesting when you just draw everything you can possibly see. I mean, it's sort of interesting from a I don't know, a meditative point of view, but ultimately, we want to try and do a drawing that we like, that isn't overwhelming. And so let's plan on, it is now 10 past, let's plan on spending, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour drawing whatever it is we see out there, and I'll talk to you a bit about while I draw this. I also want to say thanks very much for coming and joining me today, because whether you're watching this live, as a lot of you are, or whether you're watching it at some point in the future, rewatching it, what I hope to do with this series is to allow us to carve out some time for ourselves, and to just say, let's just take 15 or 20 minutes and just focus on drawing. And let's keep each other company while we do that. That makes it somehow easier, more encouraging, more fun. We have something else to do. We could be listening to a podcast. We could be listening to, some music. But there's something nice about knowing that we're all here together and we're all doing this. So whether you're doing it instantly now with me right now at 2:10 p.m. on Thursday, May 16th, or not, it doesn't really matter. Our kind of spiritual energy, woo-woo, is all here with us, and we're all kind of helping each other. So let's kind of reward ourselves for that. Let's give ourselves thumbs up for taking some time, because really that's the crucial thing about drawing. I mean, the thing that makes such a difference in our lives when we draw. It's not about just having drawings like I just showed you that I've made. It's about giving myself the time to just pause, to meditate, to look at this view out the window. I mean, when I drew that building, the kind of elaborate one that I showed you, when I drew that, that's a view that I've seen out my bedroom window every day since 1996. And yet, when I sat and drew it, and I noticed so many things about that building I'd never seen before. Even though look at it every morning when I open the blinds, there it is. I saw it anew because I was spending the time drawing. And, in the end, that drawing ends up being a couple of pages in my sketchbook, but it also is a sort of deep memory for me because of the time that I spent studying it. Okay, enough yakking. Let us work on it. And by the way, I see that that Dawn is doing something else. She's drawing a cartoon panther for her college. That's fine too. I mean, whatever it is you want to draw. You certainly don't need to draw the view out the window. If you don't have it, draw the window itself. Draw the curtains. Draw your own reflection in the window. So here's what I want to focus on. As I mentioned, this view is just too epic and too complicated. So I'm going to try and pick a portion of it. I think I'm going to pick, let me just look at this. I think I'm going to pick, I was thinking about this earlier. Just that section there. Okay, so I'm basically going to draw that. Yeah, so I'm basically, great, now the zoom has, you can see up my nostrils. Yes, where was I? Here we go. Yes, so I'm basically going to just try and focus on that sort of section. In fact, let me show you on this other drawing, because I have drawn this when I drew the giant view. I did draw this part of the picture, and let's just go back and look at that. Yeah, so really, this part here is what I'm thinking. Oh, now I'm drawing on the screen as I do it with my finger. All right, so this section here is what I'm going to focus on. So just that little part of the building. So anyway, and I think I'm going to draw on my iPad, because why not? It's here. Come on. Alrighty. So, I mean, for me, I'm going to do the kind of drawing on the iPad that isn't particularly, I'm using Procreate, but I'm not going to be really using the tools of Procreate. I'm just going to focus on line, and I think I'm not even going to draw any cross-hatching or anything like that. I'm just going to focus on doing some drawing. How can I give it to you? There we go. So, orient it here like this. Who'd have thunk that so much technology was required for me to do a stupid drawing of an old building? But Such is my curse that I have to make everything way more complicated than necessary. Okay, come along, camera, come back. So, okay, that's much better. All right, so New York is now quiet. This is what it's like living in New York. It's just incessant, the noise, incessant. It never seems to stop, and you know, that's what we put up with as New Yorkers, is constantly listening to sirens and fans and drunks and beeping taxis, and I don't know, it just never stops in New York. And that's why we love it so. I seem to start basically every drawing in the same place, which is the upper left-hand corner. It's one of the aspects of being right-handed, I guess. So yeah, so I'm starting in the top of this building. I'm starting by drawing the roof, the tiles up there, and you know, I'm not being incredibly slow today. Last time we drew together, we drew really quickly. We drew those 2-minute drawings, and it was kind of mad dash, and really fun for that reason. But today we're not going to do that. We're just going to focus on some details. You know, this is the kind of drawing that, you know, like that one I showed you, where I could spend an entire day doing this drawing. But I have plans for later today. Yes, my plan is that my wife and I are going to the members preview of the Whitney Biennial, which is, I don't know, one of my favorite art events. And that is, it happens, biennially, as the name would suggest, every 2 years. Just incredible sort of breakthroughs in art. That's what I feel. I mean, I just feel like I see so many incredible, memorable things. I just remember so many things from the last one 2 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 years, because it was so dramatic and interesting. Yeah, so the preview ends today, and we've got to try and get there this afternoon. I managed to screw up our schedule a little bit by unforeseen plans, but there you have it. Still enjoying drawing on the iPad, you know. I mean, it's become so much of my default thing to draw with now. And at first I was afraid that I was going to be using it, I was going to be cheating in lots of ways. Like you saw, I just was like erasing things and, you know, making my drawing a little bit smaller than it was originally because I hadn't planned it out properly. You know, those are the kinds of things that used to just make me really, I don't know, crazy. It used to bother me, the idea that I wasn't so committed to my line, you know, that I would be able to, or would want to make changes, you know. And now I've come to realize that that's just, it's not necessary. I mean, I think it was more necessary when I was first starting out. Honestly, I would have more rules, in part to sort of keep me on the straight and narrow and to keep that monkey voice at bay. But, you know, now, I don't know. I just want to have a good time. I don't want to be paying for too long for a mistake of the past. But isn't that the story of life? You want to avoid the mistakes of your past, particularly if they take the form of lines. Imagine if one could run one's entire life through Procreate. Make things bigger or smaller, change their appearance. I don't know, what else would one do? You could suddenly repopulate them, or make them start again. Just delete the whole thing and start again. Wouldn't that be interesting if life worked that way? Well, alas, it doesn't. And I think that's maybe one of the things that bothered me about the idea of erasing and correcting one's mistakes is I think that that's how you learn, right? I mean, that's what we always say about life. If we, that we learn from our mistakes, we learn from our experiences, and so if we didn't have anything vested in them, it'd be a very different kind of experience, I think. So, one of the things you'll notice that I'm doing like a lot of things that have little increments to them, right? These tiles and these rungs of this ladder. The reason that I'm focusing on them relatively early, although they seem kind of like persnickety details, is they are landmarks. Landmarks are the way to orient yourself around a space and to figure out, well, how big should this or that thing be? And one of the things that I can do is like I'm trying to figure out how far down this ladder goes before I reach this first window. And so by counting down with the rungs and seeing that basically the shape between the negative space between each of these rungs is a square, I can kind of have a sense as I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that when I put this window here, it's more or less in the right place. So I'm sure there are ways that one could, and then I know where to put this window, right? Because now I know that this window is next to it. And similarly, there's another window back here, and that window is going to be a little bit narrower because it's further away, but I know where to put it. It's also interesting, and similarly with these tiles. So for instance, when I drew this curve here, I knew that it lined up with this third roof tile here. So it's like looking at those things, and I knew that there were 3 tiles here. So even though at times when you're drawing something like this that is at an angle, that does have perspective to it, you can get deceived, and you can say, oh no, this is completely wrong. Like now I'm looking at this section here, and I'm realizing this needs to be a little bit wider. Let me redo that, because actually here's one of the cool things about the iPad and Procreate is I can draw this line, and now I wait a second, and suddenly it becomes straight. Don't do that often because it's a little mechanical looking, but it did allow me to sort of clean up the space, and now I know, okay, I have a bit more room here, and I need that because I'm going to put in the beginning of this fire escape. So this is what is key, I think, in doing this kind of a complicated drawing. And here, of course, as I said, I'm just drawing a relatively simple part of an incredibly complicated landscape, is always looking around to see what else is nearby and what else lines up with the element that I'm looking at right now. It's also interesting just to think about the fact that I showed you with my webcam the incredible breadth of this landscape, and the fact that this little section that I'm drawing is so small in the scheme of things, right? I mean, it's probably like 1% of the landscape. But now as I'm drawing it, I'm so zeroed in on it, and I'm noticing just all kinds of things like the shadows within shadows in these bits of the window. There's so much to notice inside of complexity. And what's also remarkable is that our eyes notice all this stuff. We're such alpha predators. We have all of these abilities to really detect details and movement. I've noticed that more and more because I've become more and more interested in birds, and we have a red-tailed hawk that lives just near us, and yesterday it flew over our building at about it was a bit before dusk, and we heard all these pigeons screeching and terrified and warning each other, hawk, hawk, whatever it was they were saying. And you think about that, I don't know, for me, I immediately see those birds flying, and I also spot that hawk from far away up in the sky. A little tiny movement, but there's something so sort of essential in our brains that we notice these small variations in the environment and notice the movement. So our eyes just are incredible instruments, you know. We can just see so much more than we give ourselves credit for. We don't even notice so many things that are happening all around us. I certainly think that drawing has helped me a great deal to increase my ability. I mean, I see, like, my wife, who doesn't really draw that often, she doesn't notice things in the landscape, particularly things that are moving. Like, I'll see something from far away, and I'm sure that that is not due to some incredible eyesight that I've been blessed with, but just to do with paying attention from all these years of drawing. I really think that that's made a difference. Also, looking at this rooftop, I'm seeing so many details that I hadn't noticed before, and I have to sort of decide, like, how crazy do I want to get with all these details, like this weird chimney that's back here. I don't know if I want to really get into all the details of that chimney. Again, what I'm really trying to do with this drawing is just notice, just pay attention to the relationships of these different things, these different elements, because this rooftop is just covered with stuff, and you can just, it's like doing a really large crossword puzzle. There's so many different things to notice, and, you know, different kind of journeys to go on with your eyeballs as you travel up one, and then suddenly you notice the tiles behind this pipe, and then I notice these wires that snake behind this pipe, and that's so much of what the pleasure of drawing is this kind of little journey that you're going on with your eyes and trekking down and seeing things that you didn't notice were there before, and it's really fun. At least for me it is. Hopefully for you too, as long as you're not beating yourself up along the way and saying, oh my God, I suck at this. How did I leave that out? You know, it's really not helpful. I'm amazed, by the way, how many times I see people sharing drawings online, particularly people, Sketchbook school students who are just starting to draw, and they'll share their drawings always served with a healthy side order of prevarication, excuses, explanation. Here's why this isn't actually what it is. This is a drawing of my grandmother, but actually her hair was completely different. And actually this paper that I used is really not right for watercolor, and yet I used watercolor on it, and so I kind of ruined it, and it's really terrible. And her hands are not this big, and she looks a bit more like a monkey than she actually did, and you know, she was a very nice woman, but I've turned her into, well, not a monkey, more of an orangutan, and that's a shame. So I don't even know why I'm doing this drawing, because all I've managed to accomplish so far is insulting my poor dead grandmother. Not at all what I'd intended. And, you know, it's Mother's Day too. So of all the days for me to insult my granny, this might be one of the worst choices to have made. Anyway, so they post these drawings that are often perfectly serviceable, and yet they have all these explanations. I mean, and I can't say that I am innocent of this either. I've certainly done it a lot. I think there's a certain kind of power that this sort of excuse making has, you know, because we can say, well, this isn't very good, but here it is. And then we sort of hope that people will say, no, it's much better than you give yourself credit for. And so we all have to, you know, join the pity party and tell you that in fact it's not that bad. And, you know, look, I would rather that you shared and explained than didn't share, but I would also like it if you told me what's good about it. Yeah, that might be nice. Because otherwise, really what we all are is we're just unpaid critics. We don't even have jobs working for a newspaper or magazine. We're just freelancing. And, and I think a lot of times that critique that we give ourselves is it's not particularly well educated, and it's not particularly accurate, because it has another purpose somehow. Anyway, should I start making excuses for this drawing? No, I'm not going to. I'm having a good time doing it. I'm having a good time talking to you. I hope that you're enjoying drawing with me. That's sort of the point of this whole exercise. I don't honestly need another drawing of the side of this building. God knows I have plenty of them. So here we go. Now I have to make a decision fairly soon, which is, how crazy am I going to go with this thing? As I said, I could keep going. I could make this drawing. I could suddenly say, you know what? Let me just show you. I'm going to make this drawing I'm going to take this drawing that I did here, and through the miracle of the iPad, I'm going to actually shrink this down, and now I'm going to draw the entire building, the entire landscape, because I've drawn this little piece. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stay focused on this particular part. But the decision I do have to make is, how far do I want to go with detail? Do I want to start shading the hell out of this thing and giving, starting to try to capture all the light that's out there now. It's relatively the middle of the day still, so the light is not beautiful. So I have to decide, do I want to really get into drawing shadows? Do I want to try and register what all these different colors are that are here? Do I want to represent the textures of the different materials that make up these walls? Do I want to start drawing bricks? Do I want to start representing the streaks of dirt that are coming down the side of this building? Or do I want to just kind of leave it? And because, as I said, I have things to do and places to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, this represents this plaster, and then there are some bricks down here. But I'm not going to draw every brick like I did in that drawing I showed you before. Instead, I'm just going to draw a few, and I'm going to leave it up to your brain to unconsciously fill in the rest of those bricks. So you'll know this is brick. And then what I do want to do, though, is I want to draw the building that's behind it, but I want to do it in a more offhand kind of way. So I want to, just sort of draw the edges of it, and just give you a sense that, okay, there is this other building here, and it has a chimney there, and it's just an outline that kind of anchors this building a bit, but it's not, I don't want to get into all the details of it, because then again I'll start having to draw every damn building in Lower Manhattan, and that's not on my game plan for today. Maybe one day I will. There is a guy who did a book recently called All the People in New York. I think he also is, or somebody else is doing one called All the Restaurants in New York. And so certainly one can devote one's life to that. New York, I mean, you'll never be done, because as soon as you draw all the buildings, they'll have built new ones. As soon as you draw all the people, there'll be new ones who've moved here or been born here. So it's an endless, futile effort. Exercise, let me just say. But what I've done here is I've just sort of drawn the area of focus, which is these windows and some of the doodads on this rooftop. And I think pen's down. It's 2:34. So how is your drawing going? What are you guys up to? Let me see what any of you said. Okay, Cable Claire Van Swage. She says she drew the view of her desk waiting for the stream to start, and did a self-portrait with the aid of her webcam. That's very nice. That's great. I'm sorry that we were late. What are some other people doing? So, Howling Wind says, I can't draw what's at my window because it's dark, being that it's the wee small hours here. So I'm going to draw my lounge room. Howling wind sitting deep in the darkness. That's interesting. Lynn says she can't see anything but sky, so she's going to draw my hand. Well, Lynn, I know you like to draw people, so that's perfectly fine. And I'm known for these absolutely beautiful hands. A former hand model. I finally retired from that game because I just couldn't take all the pressure and stress of being a celebrity hand. People trying to come and shake me, moisturize me. I just watched a man on the subway, by the way, open his bag and pull out a giant thing of Vaseline, take a huge handful of it, rub his hands with it, and then rub his entire face with it. I just wondered, like, is he like waterproofing himself or something? Is he going to like spelunk in a sewer? It just seemed like a really extreme thing way of moisturizing, particularly on the subway, really. All right. Well, I'm glad that so many of you are here, and I hope that you are drawing too. This process of drawing live is interesting, and it would be nice if sometime I could figure out a way for us to go outside, to go to the park, to go to Washington Square Park, and to draw the arch. Beautiful, the arch, built in 1826. So it's one of the older things in the village. It's very nice. What else do we have? So I wanted to say again that taking this kind of a break for yourself is important when you're trying to develop your drawing skills. It's also important in developing this kind of meditative practice that drawing can be. I'm tempted to say, why don't I just delete this file that I just made as sort of a symbolic gesture to say, it doesn't really matter what you draw. It doesn't really matter. The drawing doesn't really matter. What matters is the feeling that you have, the concentration, the focus. And that all these drawings that we're making they're sort of pages in this book of our lives, and also the book of our drawing ability. Every drawing, I think, teaches you stuff, whether it's good or bad. It teaches you new things. It develops your skills. And it also builds your neuromuscular connections, which are key to drawing. I think if you've ever had this experience of stopping drawing for some time, it could be that you stopped for a few days or a week. It could be that you stopped for a long time because you lost the habit. And it could be that you haven't drawn since you were 10 or 8 or 7. What happens when you do that, like any sort of set of muscles and nerves in your body, it breaks down, gets weak, the connections dissolve, and all those things that you've acquired, all those learnings, they start to go away. They can go away within a week. I've had that experience of not drawing for a week and then being kind of surprised. It comes back quicker and quicker. So the more you draw, and then breaks don't kind of ruin it and start you from zero again, but they definitely do have an effect. So this practice of just doing it to keep in shape is really important. And it doesn't have to be an incredible piece of art that you can have framed. It can be just whatever's in front of you. And I think that drawing things that are complex, like what I was just drawing, that view, drawing something that's really complicated, a piece of machinery, a bit of clutter on your desk, take a handful of paper clips and just drop them on your table and draw the negative spaces in there. Anything that has that complexity, it makes your brain work over time. It also is great for studying and discovering and noting intersections and landmarks. And again, those are just really crucial to your drawing ability, because everything that you draw has these components, right? It has lines, it has curves, it has intersections, it has angles. And the more facility you have to kind of find those, detect them, observe them, note them, and know how to record them, right? Because it's not enough to just see them. You have to be able to figure out how to get them on paper. The more you do that, the more you can break things down, the more accurate your drawing becomes, the more sort of second nature it becomes too. You become more like somebody who's dribbling a basketball and shooting for the basket, and who's done it every day since they were a little kid and now professional basketball player. You've tightened those neural pathways, you've reinforced them, you've strengthened them, and that just happens from doing this kind of thing over and over and over again. So when you're doing a drawing like this, don't see it as something to judge. Most of the time that's not the point at all. In fact, the judgment will just get in the way of you doing it more. So look at these drawings as just exercise, literally exercises, and so it's sort of similar to, if you go to the gym and you ride on a bike or you lift weights, it doesn't have any actual purpose. Like, there's no point in that you're lifting stuff. It's not like you're moving all the boxes out of your attic. It's just lifting things up and down, but it has an effect on your body and on your brain. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish with this drawing most of the time. So then when there comes an occasion when you do want to make something really special, you do want to make a drawing to illustrate a book, to enter into an exhibition, to give as a gift to somebody, then you'll know that you can do it with confidence because you've done this practicing, you've done this groundwork. So that's why look for these moments. We're having one right now as you're watching this video, as you're sitting here with me, but look for those wherever you can. Find them in the cracks of your day, when you're waiting for a bus, when you're watching TV, when you're waiting for the kettle to boil, whatever it is. Look for those moments and say, let me just practice this thing a little bit. And the more I do it, it's sort of like the art version of Kegel exercises. Over time, you'll have incredibly tight sphincters, whatever it is that one uses. I'm not sure how I went down that path, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. All right, I also want to say that we are at a point at Sketchbook School right now where we are just one day away from the end of what I think was a fantastic course, one of my favorite courses we've ever done, People Drawing People. And we're just about at the end of it. This is the week where people were drawing self-portraits, and so many amazing self-portraits that were drawn and shared, and it was so nice to see, I think, dramatic improvements and transformations in the way that people draw people, and then to see the artists presenting themselves was really, really nice. Next week, we're going to begin a new course, which is a remixed course called That Looks Really Real. And That Looks Really Real is what we were just doing, is kind of a part of this skill set, right? How do you make really careful observations so you can try and do drawings that aren't necessarily photographic? Because as Felix Scheinberger always says, we have cameras. We don't need to do drawings that look like photographs. We have cameras, but that are still very accurate depictions of what we're seeing in the way that we're seeing it, right? That's a key thing. It's like your unique point of view on a thing. And are you representing it the way that you want to? Do you have the facility? It may not have to be, again, photorealistic, but is it what you wanted it to be? And so this class that we're doing, it's 4 weeks. It's me, Kosha, Felix, and France. So we've taken different elements from classes that we've offered before, and we've packaged them together to say, like, let's spend a month drawing what we see. And we've taken these classes, and if you've ever taken any of these particular modules before, please join us in revisiting them. You have lifetime access to them. But if you haven't, you might want to sign up for this and spend 4 weeks with us just focusing on this kind of observational drawing, focusing on how do we draw negative space, proportions, how do we represent things using cross-hatching, how do we represent shading and volume. Those tools, how do we fine-tune those? And then, also, we're taking those courses, as I said, as presented before, but we're adding a lot of other stuff. So we're going to be doing live things. You'll see over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be focusing on those things. We're going to be doing new webinars. We're going to be showing new kinds of videos you haven't seen before. We're going to have new additional assignments. So we're taking, a great set of classes, and now we're polishing them up again. So if you want to spend 4 weeks with us doing that, just go and sign up at sketchbookschool.com. If you've already taken one of those courses, you will, I think, get an email giving you some kind of discount. And if you've taken more than that and you want to just say, let me pull them out of the archive and watch them again with everybody else, do it. Because what we want to really encourage you to do is to take our classes with us, with each other. It's a very different experience than simply watching something in isolation. To do it together like we're doing right now with Draw With Me. To talk about it, to see how other people interpreted stuff. That sharing is, I think, what makes Sketchbook School particularly special. And I certainly really enjoy it. And this is an opportunity for us to do that again. So I hope you'll get a chance to join me. And I hope that wasn't too much of a commercial, because honestly, I just as soon be drawing. My days in advertising are over. I've hung up my my sharkskin suit and my hair brilliantine. Is that what it's called? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had enough hair to brilliantine. My gold tooth. Anyway, it's been a long time since I've professionally huckstered, but sometimes you can't get rid of the habit. But anyway, I hope that we will get to do this together. And if you choose not to do that, that's fine. Let's get together again next week and draw together again. I've been thinking about some ideas, and I've had a lot of you have submitted ideas for me. That's great. If you have any other thoughts that you want to share with me, please do so. I think today we did a sort of slower, more careful drawing. Last time we did something really fun and fast. Let me know, what do you like doing better? Do you like it better if we all draw the same thing? Do you just like having the excuse to just draw whatever you want? Do you like listening to my mellifluous tones and you're actually using it to fall asleep because you're narcoleptic and my soothing voice is the only medication that works? Could be. If so, sleep well. If not, let's talk again next week. Okay. Well, thanks very much. It was very fun, and our time here is done. Thanks for drawing with me. Share your drawings if you would. If you share them on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, just do hashtag Draw With Me so that I know where they are. If you're a member of the Sketchbook School Schoolyard, our special social network, then just pop them in there, and then I'll definitely see them. So thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for drawing with me.